Listen, welcome to Bishop Chronicles. You know what the fuck it is. I'm chilling with Chris Haueter and Scott Burr, motherfucker, and he has a new book out. You need it. If you don't get it, I'm slapping you. And the podcast starts right now, as you were saying, Professor Chris.
Boom, I'm Chris Haueter, guys. Well, I'll just say, like, one thing that I'm not very good at, call it even stoic, is I do not believe in self-promotion. I struggled with that because at the same time, I know you got to kind of promote yourself, right?
Yeah.
And like it's that whole weird thing. As an artist, that back in my purist days, which now I think's all bullshit, because don't get me started on the fucking fine art world. But it was kind of like the war between the street art, lowbrow art, which is I was more of, the fine art people, and the advertising art, right? And to me, as a street art lowbrow guy,
Yes.
the fine art guys were full of fucking shit.
Always.
And it was all about who you knew, who you networked to. Once the wealthy people in the academia buy your shit and call you an artist, then you're an artist, right? That fucking shit. Bro. And then the marketing version of art was like, oh, you sold out.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I need a check. I sold out. But ironically, what had completely changed my mind, other than the arc of life, is I fell in love with Mad Men, that show. And a lot of it is, being that I'm 61-year-old white guy, is it absolutely was this, like artistically, even directed and written wise, as this almost nostalgic feel for going back
to that shit,
a different America, where white men could smoke and drink and make a bunch of money. And I gotta admit, like, even though I'm getting sucked into it, I love the fantasy of it, right?
Yo, I mean, who doesn't want all the money, all the chicks, and all the decision making? Like, I think
it was the most like liberal pre-MAGA view of that nostalgic feel to want to go back. And I'm like on my own combat base. I want to make comic books and art and all this, and I kind of got into advertising art. I'm like, the art of using art, which is propaganda, to sell people shit. Like I'm wearing one of my propaganda shirts.
Yo,
right?
I need some of that propaganda.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been just fascinated with propaganda.
Me too, bro.
And
that's
how it works.
Graffiti. That's why I love graffiti, right? So I wrote this thing, and I'm gonna send it to you. I'm gonna send it to both of you guys, and basically it's about, because my background is in hip hop journalism, right? Before I wrote about jujitsu a lot, I was the first person to interview Eazy-E ever. I was one of the first people to interview Tupac. He was my homeboy. You know what I mean? Like, we were tight. You know what I'm saying?
Awesome.
Like, I know a lot of the books he read. He used to challenge me on books that he read, like all kind of shit. But long story short, right, is I wrote about graffiti and every element of hip hop as a war tool.
Yeah.
Right? And so what I was telling all the graffiti writers, and I'm going to say it right now, stop bombing your name and start bombing principles.
That would be awesome.
Integrity. Right? Just fucking integrity.
Yeah.
Not fucking,
And I know, it's like almost all good things in culture come from the ground up.
From the ground up,
dog. From the top shit down. And whether it's punk rock or hip hop, they get cannibalized by the system on top, right?
No, it's true, bro. I used to listen to this one punk band called Haueter. They were from the East Coast.
Yeah.
I loved fucking Avail. And they used to have this thing that was called they had this I think it was an album cover, but it was a t-shirt. And it was like Uncle Sam, like a thing of Uncle Sam, and it said, "This is how we vote," and it had a shotgun. I was like, that's fucking dope. Like, but listen, guys. So if you can tell, we're already vibing. All right.
All right. Wait, I'm going to ask you a question, bro.
Yes.
All right.
Go.
So you began back in the early days, House Gracie.
Yeah.
West Coast Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah. Yeah.
And pre-internet days, I call it. And was jiu-jitsu, because I feel like in a way in the martial arts world, it was kind of punk rock.
Yeah.
It was street for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was also hierarchical.
It was.
Right?
But I feel like the hierarchy was rooted in the violence. Meaning like we all here's how, right? Like, what are you gonna do? Right. But that the little by little, the hierarchy revealed itself after training.
Yeah.
You find out this guy actually has a fucking, has a rogue radio station that he fucking plays punk shit on and da-da-da. And you find out
right, yeah.
Actually, is a carpenter and that dude's a lawyer, like it was the music that, well, in the early days, Half, I don't think let us play music.
No.
There was no music in the gym at all in those days.
And in my ego and arrogance, I always want to say, like, I didn't start that. I got that from the Jeet Kune and boxing world. Because in the boxing world, Muay Thai world, the American version, we would pump the stereo.
That's a good point.
And wrestlers, like even though I'm in high school in LA, there's something about country music and wrestling in high school. The coach would always play country music.
Interesting.
And if he left, we would play our own stuff.
Right. But if he was there, it was
yeah. And then here I am now, the brown belt, and the boom boxes are around, and it's like when the black belts aren't around, we bring in the boom box and roll, right?
Dude. So there's a book called The Boombox Project. Look into it. I'm in that. It's about hip hop, punk rock, and the boombox, and like the history of the boombox's evolution.
And I'd like to see it. Yeah.
And so it's like, I can't believe I'm in this book, but it's like me, Fat Five Freddy, the dude from Talking Heads, all these fucking hip hop people. And it's like, because I was known in my neighborhood for carrying a boombox. Even when it would rain, I would put my boombox in a plastic bag, like in a trash bag, and I would still carry it outside. And you just hear the Beastie Boys and like Run DMC bang out this fucking thing. But like, dude, I need to know. I know because I just got far enough in the Chris Haueter book to learn how you guys got together. Scott, you inspire me a lot because I've been a writer for a long time and I have struggled in the quagmire of my own mediocrity. And
I get that.
Yeah.
And it hurts. Yeah. And so, what you guys have done is really inspirational to me on so many levels. The fact that the book exists, the fact that you exist individually, but then Voltron up as a superpower between yourselves is so fucking cool to me. Like, I love this shit. And so I want to really know about you because you're the farthest one from the West Coast. So I'm curious as to your jiu-jitsu journey. Like, how did you get into it? Like, how did you find jiu-jitsu, and tell me about what you were doing before it, please.
I was in a traditional martial art, like a lot of people, and thought, like a lot of us did, we thought we knew how to fight. And then the era that I was kind of involved in that was it was the late 90s. So the UFC was around, but it was far from mainstream. And then early sort of mid 2000s, The Ultimate Fighter came around, and we all kind of really got the wake up call that we should have gotten with Hoist, but that sort of second wave wake up call of like, this is, if you think you know how to fight, like these guys really do know how to fight, and
Yeah.
you need to know what they know. And as luck would have it, there was a Haueter affiliate in Cleveland, so about like 40 minutes from where we lived, and it
Tell
was
me his name.
there was a guy named Donald Park who started that affiliate. He was a purple
Okay.
belt at the time, and then he left. He moved to Chicago, and he turned the program over to a guy named Darren Branch, who was a
Okay.
blue belt.
Okay.
And so yeah, we were all kind of like, you know, the inmates were running the asylum, like we're a bunch of white belts and then a blue belt running all the classes, and we all just, it was, you know, I've often said it's not like far from old school, right? We're like 2006. But like still the generation that really looked up to the old school, whereas I feel like now it's so removed, they're looking maybe one generation back and that's it.
Yeah, true.
So it had let's call it, it was like third wave punk, right? Like we weren't like starter punks, but like
Yeah.
really admired and emulated that ethos and that. So it was a lot of, you know, just white belts in like t-shirts and board shorts beating each other up and
I just love that
staying
shit
late
though.
into the night. And yeah.
Like I think everybody's journey is important, and I always think everybody should share their journey, because how we came into it, who we came under it through, you know, how it changed us. Even like if you end up like changing schools, you know what I mean, and what you got from changing schools. Because I was at House, and then I left House because I had a kid, and like he had just opened up San Francisco, but my parents' house was between Mountain View and San Francisco, and Charles was in Daly City. So I was like, fuck, I'm going to Charles. You know what I mean? Because it was too far. And then like, I didn't realize that the whole Gracie family didn't kumbaya it. You know what I mean? I thought everybody was fucking cool. And then I got into Charles's and I realized it's a little different. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Even though it's the same fighting style. And then I took a break, a long break. I was on and off the mats for a bunch of fucking years, and then got divorced. And then like as soon as my ex-wife left, I was like, what the fuck am I gonna do with my life?
Yeah.
Gumby's is still open. Heroes Martial Arts in San Jose. Here I come. Right. So I went back to the mat and got my black belt. So I'm like 10 years late on my black belt, right?
Yeah.
But better late than never. And you know, like all the doors that opened up in my heart, in my brain, and in my world through the continuing the pursuit of that black belt. Like I mean, it's just it's a priceless journey. And back to your book, this is why I like it so much, because you wove jujitsu into the reality of your whole life, and not just jujitsu in this box. And I think it's so hard for the average outsider, non-person who trains, person who, you know, doesn't really do this, to understand how much jujitsu can, not always does, how much jujitsu can make you think about who you are, what you are, and why you are anything. And also give you the agency to change as you see fit, because of the confidence that comes from the training, and you being more at peace with being whoever and whatever you are. You know, I really like that. And the book speaks to that.
So one of the things that we talked about a lot, and one of the things that the focus for me on the book, and one of the reasons we structured it the way we structured, is that the book is really about all of the ways we try to connect. So that the things that we talk about in the book, where we talk about getting into tribal politics, where we get into talking about art, when we get into talking about jiu-jitsu, when we get into talking about this friendship that forms between Chris and I, and then eventually whatever happens in the plot of the book happens. It's about this quest we're all on to find a community we connect with, find people we connect with. And so jiu-jitsu, always within the context of the book. I mean, you even in the third chapter of the book, we talk about how Scott really connects with Chris because of this one line Chris says in this video about, I'm a 5th degree artist. I really wanted to be an artist, not a jiu-jitsu. So this already starting to see jiu-jitsu as one of many ways that each of us as individuals tries to understand ourselves and connect with express that to others, and find a home within our community. I mean, that was very much so. When you say that weaving jujitsu into the broader story of the book, it was like, yeah, I just saw jujitsu as one of these very sacred threads of the ways that we try to connect with each other.
Now, Chris, look, my podcast is mainly about two things. It's about jujitsu and Stoic philosophy. That's what my podcast is. Now, I'm behind the paywall. I talk about my hip hop shit. So that's where I'll talk about me and Tupac or whatever. I just did a thing about my friendship with RZA, Jizza, and ODB, and going to crazy ass shows with Crips and Grape Street Watts and shit. And I've had a crazy life. It's been great though. There's no complaints, right? There's no complaints, right? But I love, one of the first things I understood about you, other than like your legacy in jiu-jitsu, was your dedication to art, was your dedication to loving and expressing art. And so can you tell me how, or the first times you remember jiu-jitsu influencing your art or your art influencing your jiu-jitsu?
Gosh, I mean, like, let me open with this. And I felt sorry for, sympathized, and empathized with Scott in writing this, because not only am I a perfectionist and a picky, but like a lot of times in my art, it's either all over the place or pointed down to one little thing, right? And if I say one little a paragraph of what I think is the most important part, Scott would have to try to pull that out of a bunch of shit.
Yeah.
So I would emphasize, it's like when you do art, like a painting or illustration, you can always come back to the corner you were working on over here, right. Change what's over here and all that. Right. Whereas writing is a whole other kind of art, right? And
totally.
Yeah, and so yeah, I mean, I kind of think, and I've heard artists like arrogantly go, only some people are real creatives and everyone else. Like, I don't believe that. Yeah. I think everybody is a creative. Some people are more naturally musically talented. Some people are more for body arts. Others for drawing or writing or painting or like whatever it is, right? And I mean, I'm kind of nihilistic, which is one of the reasons why I love the Stoics, right? Because like a part of me really thinks that there is no like greater point of life. We make our own point in life.
Right.
And I think when you get to that place, then art is your only answer, whether it's writing, jiu-jitsu, music. I mean, what else is there then, right?
Dude, I have a hard time feeling human without writing.
Yeah,
I since I was a child, right? Like since I was like really fucking young, like 9, 10 years old, writing my ideas down. And I've never stopped, and so I think that, everybody cheats themselves when they don't give themselves permission to express themselves in any given artistic outlet that they prefer.
Yeah.
Right? Whether it's comic book drawing or poetry or painting or graffiti art, like, or dance, like whatever that outlet is, as long as it's authentic to them. I think a lot of us, and I do a lot of stuff around men's mental health. I think a lot of men's mental health suffers when we smother that out.
Yes.
After 40, right?
I completely agree.
We put ourselves out to pasture.
Or if that creative part gets channeled into, I'm going to call it violence.
Right.
Or I mean, a lot of fascist ideology is aesthetics.
True.
It's far less about policy platform as it is almost artistically a ground up resentment movement expressed through the aesthetics, which is why whether you look at Mussolini, Nazi propaganda, it has a very similar feel. It like makes men feel empowered and part of a group and part of a tribe. And there's like, and I don't want to say this because it sounds like I'm excusing it, but like there is that human drive, especially the male drive, which is why you and I love the Stoics.
Yeah.
To have a control and power. And Marcus Aurelius, Seneca really address that like need for control and power, especially when you feel like you're in a role that you're supposed to be in power.
No, it's a big deal.
Right?
That's a good point.
You're popularly elevated to a spot where suddenly the youth is looking up to you.
Right.
Right? And that's like that like slippery slope where whether you're a young actor or musician or you're idolized, and that can be a very destructive force.
Totally. No, it is. It is. And I think that's what that's how kind of you end up with like Andrew and Tristan Tate.
Yeah.
Right. And like one of my last podcasts was that I used to be really, really cool with their dad. I used to be really cool with their dad. And I did a whole podcast about like my friendship with their dad and like not knowing them, what I kind of think happened based off my relationship with Pops. You know what I mean?
Wow. Yeah.
And it's like, also, man, this whole shit about art and everything is crazy. So I curated 2 art exhibits. One was at the World Chess Hall of Fame in like 2011, and it was on hip hop, chess, and martial arts. And then I did one at the Oakland Museum in California, which was on hip hop in the Bay specifically. It was called Respect, Hip Hop, Style, and Wisdom. And like we had like all this crazy graffiti shit in there. I had him bring a 6'4" lowrider into.
That's cool.
We had a 6'4" Impala.
Yeah.
It was hard. Like we had all the hip hop fashion. We had turntables, like people could scratch if they wanted. We had a graffiti area where people could tag walls. We had all this other thing.
Cool, yeah.
And like I think that's kind of the reason I wanted that is because I said, I'm afraid to put hip hop into a museum because everything in a museum is dead.
Yeah.
Right? And if I put turntables under glass, it might as well be the sarcophagus of Tutankhamun. It's fucking over. Right? So I was like, we can't do that to a living art. So we all let's make a dance floor area. Right. And there would be like a video. People could, watch the dance and then try the dance. We had a beat making thing where people could make their own beats. Right. So now why these motherfuckers loved it. Because you doing it. This shit is dope. We had chess tables, right? Hip hop and chess is a big deal. Let's do this, right? We had a graffiti area. We had all this shit.
Yeah, that's that kind of weird thing. Like, I mean, like in all arts, there's the observer, the artist, and the art in one way, right? And then that can all blend. And like, is it when an art becomes the dead, is that when the observer can no longer connect because they can't participate in it? Like, I don't know. I mean, I've always like wondered, I mean, like, what is art, right? That's like any art school class in art school or college or Otis or NYU or wherever you go.
Yeah.
When the philosophy of art is talked about, it's almost always opens up with what is art?
What is it? Yeah.
What is art? Is it objective? Can art objectively be bad? can art objectively be good? And then that leads to postmodernism. Because
I mean,
it's relative, right?
There was a guy, now all of my dad's gonna slap the shit out of me because I don't remember which jazz artist said this, but somebody asked, I want to say it was either Miles Davis or John Coltrane.
Yeah.
And they asked them, like, what is jazz? And like, I don't remember the actual quote, but the paraphrase is something like, you know it when you hear it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay? It's like, you know it when you hear it, right? I think that's true of all art. And I believe it's never been more real than right now with jujitsu. Because you can go on to TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and see what Charles used to call Hollywood jujitsu. I remember a guy would come in and he'd be like, Professor, what do you think of this? I saw this move. And he would look and he'd be like, it works in Hollywood. he would be like,
yeah,
sure, if the guy doesn't go here and if he doesn't, then yeah, it works. Or if he doesn't know jujitsu, it works. But it's Hollywood, right? And so I feel like whether I'm watching anybody, I don't care if they're from the West Side, I don't care if they're in Ohio, I don't care if they're in Australia, if they're in Dagestan, I see that shit and I'd be like, oh, that shit is cold. That shit is cold. Right. I fucking need it. You know what I mean? Like that's what it is. So Scott, I want to ask you and I want to ask Chris, when you see jujitsu, how do you know that's the art you walked in for? When do you know you see it?
When do I know I see the art that I...
Yeah, I mean, you see the jujitsu that you want and love in another human expression?
Boy, I don't know. How do you know what you... Well, it's almost an obvious question. Yes, well, like...
This question.
Here's how
most of jujitsu I don't connect with. Most of what I see on the internet I don't connect with, right? I got into jujitsu because we cared about fighting. We cared about really what fundamentally works. And so Chris and I talk about this in the book a fair amount. That jujitsu now is inextricable from the jujitsu that happens online, and the growth of jujitsu is inextricable from the growth of jujitsu on social media. But to me, most of the jujitsu that you see on social media is about bringing attention to the practitioner rather than to the art. And I'm not really interested in you so much. I'm interested in the craft of the thing you're doing, right? And I think you can always tell whether somebody is doing something to shine a spotlight on the craft or shine a spotlight on themselves.
Ooh, I guess that's the shit I'm talking about right there. Chris, ride that wave, Chris.
And now I'm going to jump in. All right. So one of the lines I use all the time is, I can't get oil paint and a canvas and paint you a song. And I cannot sing you and play you a painting. And but jiu-jitsu and all athletics, but really I find it in the jiu-jitsu is something that your eyes almost trick you into missing what the jiu-jitsu
actually happened.
And when I hear Rickson explain, to me, feel a connection, connection is just a fucking word, and it became a buzzword.
Yeah,
but you have to feel the jiu-jitsu. You can't see jiu-jitsu.
Yo, listen.
You have to hear music. You can't. But here's where it transcends. If, call it a good the D-trip, whatever it is, sometimes you can see music and sometimes you can hear art.
Yo, you know what's crazy?
You're a painting, right?
Listen. There's an attorney in San Jose. His name is Steven Nakano. And he's also a saxophonist. I don't know if he still has the band, but I knew him a lifetime ago. He still practices, but we don't talk much. But he used to have a band called No Son of Mine, because he said my dad was like, no son of mine would be fucking sax player. You know what I'm saying? So his jazz band was called No Son of Mine, right?
That's a great
But,
name, yeah.
but one of the things that he told me, was that if you teach music to a child, begin teaching music to a child before the age of 7, I think he said, that the child will see notes as colors. That
That's
something
cool.
in their brain makes it so that they see notes as colors. So what you said absolutely just triggered that thought, right? The other thing is, I tell my students all the time, no matter where it comes from, to me, the DNA of elite jujitsu is that you feel it before you see it.
Yeah.
That's, to me, the thing. That if you feel it before you see it, it was elite. You know what I mean? And that's how I try to make, when I'm in my own zone, expressing jujitsu at the highest level, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make you feel it, feel this expression before you see the expression. There's a guy under Ralph Gracie named Sapone, and back in the day, like, he was unquestionably an apex predator from the lineage, and he changed my mind a lot when I saw him write. When I go out onto the mat, I'm paraphrasing, but he said, like, when I go onto the mat, he's like, I'm never fighting. He said, I'm always expressing my jujitsu. Yeah. And when I understood that idea, it really changed it really altered my intentionality on the mats, whether I was learning or when I was going hard.
Yeah.
That to express your jujitsu is a totally different mindset than fighting.
I mean, I always think, even though I'm not really a musician, I play drums a little bit.
Yeah.
But like the combat sports, when done at their height, are a lot like jazz. More like jazz than rock and roll. And the classical arts are more like, classical music. You have to read the music. Sure, you can do a little interpretation, but in jazz, you're riffing off of each other and stuff
all the time.
I mean, that's like why, like a lot of jazz greats will say, I mean, I don't know, but that all good jazz is live.
Yeah.
When you record it, you kill it, I've heard. But I mean, maybe that was just a dude's opinion who was, who knows, right? But like, I feel like as a drummer, who's not a good drummer, I'm a tapper, I'm a wiggler, I have ADHD, like boxing, kickboxing, but jiu-jitsu have a rhythm. And you're finding the rhythm of your opponent.
It's real.
And you're riffing off of it, right?
That's real.
That's good jiu-jitsu. And that's fun jiu-jitsu.
It's funny you say that, because really okay, so there's an African historian. He is the fucking Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant of Black history. His name is John Henrik Clarke. Let me tell you right now, no one's fucking with John Henrik Clarke when it comes to actual scholarship and clear lines of fucking thought that go with it.
I'm looking him up.
But the thing that makes him one of the best historians ever is, a lot of people don't know, he was a poet before he covered history. So when he writes history, that's why it doesn't sound like the average fucking boring, on this date at this place. He was a poet first.
That's cool. Yeah.
And so remember, for his era, someone who came up, he was a contemporary of Malcolm X's time. Jazz was the revolutionary musical moment, right? And what he said is that, and it blew my mind because I tested it out. He said, if you listen to John Coltrane do a song, every time you hear that song, it's never the same song.
It's a different song.
And so I was like, fuck that. And I went on YouTube and I started listening to, I think, Blue Train.
Yeah.
And every time, whether he was on television, it was record recording, it was a lot, it was never
Never the same.
And I was like,
Yeah.
fuck, like he's able to give you enough of the song so that you can recognize what it is, but never give you the same song. And to me, this lends to the infinite nature of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, right? That, you know, like I tell people all the time, like I was able to interview Elio in like 97, 98 in Torrance. And so I tell people all the time, like, because Jiu-Jitsu is alive, the black belt that he had was not the black belt that Hoist had, was not the black belt that I have, and you will have a black belt that is not like mine, because Jiu-Jitsu is always alive and growing. You know, this armbar that nobody could stop, somebody figured out an escape. Now that armbar is almost rendered irrelevant. Now people are going to the leg lock. Now people are going to some fucking crazy old school judo shit. And so, like, a question for you, Scott, and then Chris, is when you're writing about something that is so in its essence infinite, how do you choose what's important? Because it's so dope. It's so big, right? Like, how do you decide, okay, from this infinite galaxy of moves, positions, and physical expressions and artistic interpretations, this is right? Like, I'm just curious because I love it. There's no wrong answer, right?
Yeah.
There's no wrong answer. I'm just curious.
Well, I mean, as far as this project goes, I got to dodge that bullet because my job was to write about what Chris was telling me at the moment that he was telling me. But I mean, I think one of the things that again, in trying to write this book, one of the elements that comes up later in the book that you'll see is this idea that Chris as an individual, us as individuals, us as our practitioners, whatever, us as artists, we're evolving, changing things. And that we can try to convey, that is unconveyable in the medium of anything that becomes fixed and finished.
Word.
And so the best you can do is gesture to the fact that what you're seeing is not the living thing. What you're seeing is a snapshot of a living thing. And so when, you know, in later sections of the book, when I talk about, you know, because there's many sections, like the part you read where it's immediately after the 2016 election.
Yeah.
The logic of sharing that was that, yes, this is very accurate to the conversations that Chris and I had, but is it part of the eternal Chris Haueter story? No, those events are not part of the eternal Chris Haueter story.
Right.
The
It's
interest and the engagement and the passion for this particular knowledge set is part of the eternal Chris Haueter story. So what is momentary is representative of the eternal, and what is eternal is only ever expressed in the momentary. And so as long as you are saying, these are the moments that comprise this book, right? But they are not the sum total of the living thing that goes on forever and ever. I think that's the best you can possibly do.
Scott Burr with the 3 at the buzzer. That shit was dope. Chris, break that down. Keep going.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like the old, whether it's a Zen koan or a Taoist saying, or it's like, can you ever step in the same river twice?
Yeah.
Yes and no.
Yeah.
Right? It's a yes and no thing. Can you, isolated on an island with 5 friends and 1 book, learn jiu-jitsu? No. But yes, you also can, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, I always like to think of like our lives, whether you believe in an afterlife or not, the life we have right now, it's like an hourglass that's been turned over and the sand is going. And you have this little period in the middle where you get to do shit.
Yeah.
And you get to a point where, how much time do I want to waste on shit that I don't really want to do?
Oh my God, bro.
I don't want to judge other people doing it, even though I can't help it, because I might think they're wasting their time. But then I have to go, are they? Maybe that's a lesson they got to learn by working like a combat athletic style, but jiu-jitsu until injury to then go, I got to chase the art now.
Right.
Or the guy who goes, I'm going to chase only the art and winds up in Aikido completely full of magic only to get lumped up by a young athlete who just knows a right cross.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's like that whole
so
thing.
Deep, bro.
But we really do the sand is falling in our hourglass. And what you're going to do with that time, just on a personal note, and like, here's the Stoics, right? Is accept what I can change, what I can't, and the wisdom to know what I can and can't.
That's right.
Because it's really easy, but to go, oh, I can't change anything. Life just happens to me.
Yeah.
And it's also easy, but to go, I can do anything and I can change everything. I'm going to alter the course of my life. And most of the time, our best laid plans never turn out the way we imagined they would, good or bad.
Brother, my life right now is a hieroglyph of that fact. My Lord. No, it's true. It's so true. And it's crazy because, you know, in Stoicism, there's this term, amor fati, right? Like love.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And so like, I recently got, remarried and, I had a really insane ass divorce after a 23-year journey. And I remember when I was, in the death throes of that, I was studying Stoicism. I was just learning about it, and this was after having known very well Socrates, some of the pre-Socratics, Plato. Mm-hmm. I wasn't, I just didn't know the Stoic school, right? Yeah. And I remember being like, amor fati, what kind of bullshit? I was like, why? How am I supposed to love going to court on this shit? How am I supposed to love not seeing my kids and shit? How am I supposed to, I don't have a car right now, so I'm walking like 2.5 miles to and from the train station every day in every fucking season by my fucking self, right? Like for about 18 months, that was my real life, right? And man, I am so grateful for that time right now. I am grateful for those walks. I'm grateful for that alone time. I'm grateful for the grit to get up and be like, it's fucking pouring outside, and tearing a hole in a fucking garbage bag and putting it over my fucking clothes and walking down that hill again. I'm so grateful for it. But a lot of times in the center, in the eye of the storm, it obviously doesn't feel like it's okay. When you're in the eye of the storm, it doesn't feel it. But man,
Marcus Aurelius,
anything different at this point. Nothing.
The obstacle is the way.
Period.
And that is jiu-jitsu, right? The obstacle literally is the way. And if you're trying to find the move that works every time in all things, you're not chasing jiu-jitsu, because it's mostly failure, letting things go and adapting, right? It's not
failure.
It's not, I'm going to get that arm no matter what. And if it requires, there's always that.
Yeah.
The learning process. But ultimately, even the best jiu-jitsu guy, even if you go back in early MMA and watch like Hicks in a fight with Zulu, or a lot of the early sport jiu-jitsu matches before the rules were all hashed out. These are exchanges of mostly failures.
Ooh,
you missed the back, you missed the neck, you missed the arm.
Yeah.
And in boxing,
you took penalties for that shit too.
Yeah.
Like you missed it and got socked in the jaw.
Yeah. And in boxing, like I love the art of boxing.
Ooh.
But I'm 61 and it does not love me back. Right? I can still do jiu-jitsu, which is one of the reasons why I love it, because it's got the longest shelf life. But and in the body arts, gymnastics has the shortest little life. By the time your bones fuse and all that,
you are done, homie.
If you're not little and been working at it for 15 years, it's time to hang up your gymnastics gear. But the boxing is beautiful because it is the simplest of the combat arts. Yet you spend the rest of your life trying to master it.
Yeah, dude. It's kind of like chess, right?
Yeah.
Like, chess is a great game. I teach chess. I've taught chess in juvenile halls, in different hoods, all kind of, I've taught about chess at Harvard and stuff like that. But most people don't realize how much I suck at the game. I'm trash at this fucking game. And
I'm all right.
I'm trash. Most people don't realize how hard it is to be a chess grandmaster, bro.
Oh, God, yeah.
Get out of here.
That's why I like speed chess. That's why I like speed chess.
Right? Because you're like, bing, bang, boom, 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 boom. You know what I mean? At least it's, but like, dude, like, this stuff is really hard. And so, like, I have a pure jiu-jitsu question for both of you about your individual journeys. Chris, along your journey in learning jiu-jitsu, what belt and or what position or submission was really a hurdle for you to get through, and like maybe what got you through that?
I'll give you 3 distinct things. And part of it is because I like 3s.
Okay.
There's probably more, but when I began this as a wrestler, I liked headlocks and to be on top.
Mm-hmm.
And I had an instinct that being on bottom meant you're for sure losing.
Yep.
So I remember when I first learned, and I still find guys in the jiu-jitsu who are upper belts who really don't know actual like formal guard retention.
Yeah.
The magic of suddenly going from not only am I defending my guard, but the defense is now offense.
The chef's kiss of the game.
That's that paradox of like where like you go from a wrestler never be on your back on bottom to you for a period fall in love with guard and being on your back.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's so pleasurable, which is why in my rules I always say the guard is the paradox of jiu-jitsu. Because technically you should always want to be on top.
That's real.
But in order to learn the art of jiu-jitsu, you have to fall in love with being on bottom.
It's true.
And like with the way Hickson would word it, I mean, maybe now I don't want to put words in his mouth. You almost have to fall in love with being uncomfortable and miserable. And in turn, then you can go, I'm okay if I'm in a headlock or I'm mounted.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
But it's not that you want to be there, but the last thing you want to do is let the uncomfort overwhelm your jiu-jitsu, if that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect. And
that's one. That's only one.
Let's get to 2, damn it. I need the 2 and the 3. You said there was 3s, and I feel cheated.
Yeah. All right. 2. Big jiu-jitsu epiphany. So I was into kickboxing, boxing, and started jiu-jitsu and slowly put those away. Like, because I was so into jiu-jitsu.
Right.
And I felt like, I don't need any more kickboxing and all that. When I was around a new black belt, and I hadn't really sparred in a long time, and I was sparring a guy, and even though I hadn't sparred in a while, I quickly was better at kickboxing because I realized there's this like internal thing, even though I'm a natural grappler, love grappling, something about learning with jiu-jitsu and not being all hunched over like a wrestler or upright like a boxer.
Yeah.
that like relation where hips and the movement of head movement and all that, it was like, oh, I can now translate with jujitsu to my boxing and boxing to my jujitsu.
I love that shit.
And then the third and last one, because I'm rambling on and on, I do that.
I'm for it. I too am a rambler. Ramblers Anonymous.
I do that. Is the phenomenon of aging and injury. The phenomenon of aging and injury gets you, it really boils you back down to the art and the simplicity of the art. And when I say art, it's how do I control and submit my opponent without strikes, utilizing the least amount of attributes in athletics and the maximum amount of knowledge, leverage, cunningness, and guile.
Damn, homie, that shit was a poem within itself. I remember when I was a purple belt with this dude had fell on my leg and my shit was fucked up. And I remember talking to Haueter on the phone one night. I remember where I was. Like I could tell you exactly where I was. And I was like, he could hear I was on the way out. You know what I mean? Like he could hear it in me. And he was like, listen, when you start to age, that's when you learn jujitsu. He said, because when you're young and you're faster and stronger than everybody, you're not really using it because anytime something goes wrong, you get to power out, explode out, whatever. He goes, once you start aging, that's when, what is your structure really like? How smooth are your movements? Da, 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 da. And he was like, that's really where your journey needs to go. And like that conversation probably kept me in the game, unbeknownst to myself at the time. You know what I mean? Like that, because the more, every time that I would get frustrated, I would be like, what was I really moving like? Where was my shoulder blade? How tight was I? Whatever. And it really changed me. You know what I mean? Scott, so tell me, what were some of the moments in your life where you were frustrated with yourself or your absorption of jujitsu? And how did you kind of navigate? Were there positions, submissions that you weren't getting? How did you find your way to them or through them or transcend them?
So Chris was talking, I was remembering something that I'd kind of forgotten, which was that when the era in which I was a purple belt, and we're talking 2000 and whatever, 2008, no, 2010 to like somewhere in the early 2010s. It was the era in which it really started to feel like the competition jiu-jitsu was hockey sticking, and a lot of stuff was going up on YouTube, and a lot of instructionals were coming out. And as a senior jiu-jitsu guy, I remember feeling this very strong anxiety about the idea that I would need to learn jiu-jitsu in order to get a black belt, and yet what that curriculum included kept expanding, and I was chasing kind of the edge of the universe, and the edge of the universe was moving much faster than I was. And I remember coming to this, kind of operating within sort of a period of anxiety where I was voraciously trying to absorb as much as I could from everything. And then all of that sort of consolidated, and I had this realization kind of, it was like the phrase I kept repeating through that era was, if the guy can't move, he can't do a move. So the focus became very much for me about what is the fundamental mechanical limitation, the fundamental mechanical immobilization what are the access points to that? What are the engagements with those access points that I'm going to employ? And if I employ them skillfully, it doesn't matter if he knows 16 ways to take my back from the De La Hiva. If his mobility is reduced way down to the point of insignificance, I don't have to know all 16 of those things, right? It's all limited to this one thing, and I can build off of moving forward off of those elements. So that transition from this like chasing the ever expanding thing into going, no, like what's fundamental about these are two human beings. Mobility exists dependent on certain elements. Strength is dependent on certain angles and orientations. if we're having a conversation with those things, we're having a conversation with everything, because everything branches from those elements.
Damn, man. This whole conversation is doper than I anticipated, and I anticipated that it would be dope. This is great. A question I try to ask everybody, and it's important to me to kind of get these things in, because like I loved Rickson Gracie's book Breathe, right? Like almost everybody that even halfway thought they were involved in jiu-jitsu read that book or should. If you haven't, you will get slapped again after not buying the Chris Haueter book. But the thing that tripped me out about that book is he never wrote about the day he got his black belt. That really fucked me up. Like, there's no, and then my father came into the room, and then Holes told me at dinner, and I need that story. And so because of that, I want to ask you each, tell me about the day you got your black belt, and
I'm going to jump
expect
in.
it?
Yeah. So, like everything, there's a good and a bad, right? And like I think I had 2 stripes on a black belt before anyone began that thing where you line up and shake everyone's hand at the end of the class. Like, that was non-existent. When I began with jiu-jitsu, Hoist, Hegan, and Rickson all had black belts that hung down almost
to their kneecaps.
Knees. Yeah. And there weren't red swaths. And I used to say, in a perfect world, there would be no moment that you get promoted. You would start out a white belt, and I would have a little wand that would slowly turn your white belt blue. And then that blue belt would slowly turn purple. And then I'd take out all the contrast in hue, and it would be brown. And then maybe the black belt would be an event, but a very minor event. It would be like, as I was told by Carlos Machado, this is when jiu-jitsu starts. Everything else is practice to get to the point where you know enough. Because if a jiu-jitsu is a language, now you know enough to communicate, write, make your own slang, make your own poetry.
Damn.
That's the black belt, right? And that's kind of like, so I really, like, I shouldn't say I'm really, because I'm not really opposed to fucking anything in martial arts. People do whatever the fuck they want. But like the belt test curriculum, yeah. I get the reason why that. Just like I get the reason why we write a statutory law that says at the stop sign, your tires have to be behind the thing. But like what the spirit of the law is, so you don't go zooming through and hitting other cars. And if there's no other cars around, why should you not be able to roll the stop sign, right? It's that whole thing, right? Letter of the law, spirit of the law. Letter of jiu-jitsu, spirit of jiu-jitsu. Do these steps every time for the move, find the spirit of the move. I mean, they're both important, but I think we humans can get
snap. What happened to Scott, bro?
What happened?
Scott's gone.
Scott phased out.
Oh, well, time's up. Bye.
So keep going. Keep going.
Well, I want to hear more about when you interviewed Eazy-E and Tupac.
All right, but hold up. You still didn't tell us when you got your black belt, damn it. That's a toll. Pay that toll, and I'll tell you anything you want to hear about Tupac and Eazy.
Well, I'm going to tell you this. Like a lot of guys, every belt, with the exception of my brown belt, I felt like it came too early and I was a fraud in the belt.
I think that's important.
But my brown belt, when I got that, it wasn't that. It wasn't even thank you. It was like, fuck you very much. I'm a brown belt, and I know I'm a brown belt. because I was a good purple belt. I was cocky. The guys who are good had a hard time passing my guard.
Yeah, they knew.
And it was like, I want to be a brown belt. I want to win. And I'll just say, I mean, all belts are politics. The two are involved in every belt. And people are like, oh, the Dirty Dozen and all that. I could name 4 or 5 guys who should have gotten their belt either before me or at the same.
But the
but
way
because of the politics, because they pissed off the black belt's wife, because they did this, because
and you can do that,
cross-trained at another school, or like whatever it was, I happened to, because I'm an astute, I'm not political, but I follow politics.
Yeah.
And I understand politics, and politics are in every.
Yeah, and especially in jiu-jitsu.
Everything is politics. And people who say, oh, I hate politics, are the most political people out there.
Like your best friend?
That is one of the most political statements you can say, is I hate politics.
Yeah.
Because whether it's in your workplace, your friendship group, whatever, everything's politicking. And people also have been taught, largely through right-wing media, that politics is this bad thing. Politics is bad. No, politics is human interaction.
I agree. 100%.
It's human interaction. That's politics.
Yep.
Ideas.
Yeah.
In opposition with other ideas. Culture clashes. Policy clashes. Whether the schools should be big or little. Whether we ought to say little class or not. That's all politics.
No, it's true. So what politics got you your black belt, and tell me about that day?
I'll tell you a couple things I learned from the Jeet Kune Do world.
Let's go.
One of them I learned is never piss off the significant other of the main instructor.
Oh, stop.
No, it's absolutely true. I watched guys in the Jeet Kune Do world who Guru Dan really liked, but Paula didn't like them. And guess what? They didn't get invited to things, to do the advanced classes or any of that shit.
Yeah, they wouldn't know about, oh, so-and-so's coming to town. We're going to meet over at the beach and shit. You're out.
I know 2 of Hickson's guys who pissed off Kim, his wife. They pissed her off. Homie. And it's typical. I would watch guys walk up, whether it's Hickson or Guru Dan, and go right to them, not even looking at the wife, praising them, oh, hi, and just knowing, dude, you just politically fucked up. You walk up, you introduce yourself to the wife, introduce yourself to the brown belt, then you say, nice to meet you, Guru Dan or Hickson, whoever it is.
Yeah.
That's politics. And I learned that. I learned that growing up.
Yeah. No, that's that.
And some people just don't do that. They just don't know to do that. And yep.
That's a social skill.
That's a social skill. Politics is social skill.
So when did you get your black belt? Were you expecting it? Did he drop it on you and like kick the shit out of you, or like he had everybody jump you? You had to walk the gauntlet and they all hit you with the belt?
No, the gauntlet had not began until after I was a black belt and the Machados were off making a movie and we promoted some the blue belts. We began the gauntlet. But
she regrets.
So I remember I got a call on my landline to make sure that I show up to train, but tonight, which I was gonna anyways, because I train all the freaking time. And then he did his classic, okay, everybody back to the wall. And then, okay, we got some promotions here. And 2 Brazilians that day and 3 of us Americans that day, or 4 of us got our black belts. And again, the only belt I felt like I was ready for when I got it, way overdue, was the brown belt. I did not feel, I was starting to train so I could compete in Brazil as a brown belt because I wanted to win brown belt. Yeah, that was my goal. So did it feel heavy and weird? It was John Machado's belt. He pulled it off of his waist and put it around mine.
Dude, that's heavy.
And I mean, and again, I don't want to minimize my black belt or anyone's black belt. But at the same time, they would say, and all the guys, you know, all this does is hold your lapels from falling apart and lets people know that if you're going to compete, you need to compete with these guys, not those guys. Right? And like martial arts, like boxing, Muay Thai, like even those are starting to have rank because it's a business now and people like rank and people like that thing. But competition wise, I think it's good that there are belts. Good, right? Because you get to separate. You don't want to have the new blue belt compete against the experienced black belt. So you can create sport divisions, right? And all these guys that want to add these new belts and these gray stripes down them, and all no, we got enough. We got enough. We don't need more weight classes. We don't need now.
I think we might need more weight classes just because I think sometimes the cutting can be hard for kids and/or it can be hard for like.
Now, kids is a whole other deal. I'm not even talking about kids.
But as far as adults go, I think you're generally right. I just think that no matter what weight you are, you shouldn't be cutting more than 5 pounds.
No.
Like if you cut more than 5 pounds, you might fuck yourself up. Because I've done that. You know, I made myself too weak. Then you go out there and get dragged, and it's like, why did I do this?
I've done it too. And in the olden days, just like high school wrestling and current MMA and boxing, you would weigh in 24 hours before you fight.
Yeah.
So it was this game about water weight and sucking yourself up. Yeah. And I think the smartest thing they did was you weigh before your first match.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Because it stops people from emaciating themselves.
And hydrating and being like, what's up, homie? I'm 380 now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You're in danger.
Yeah. It like eliminates that absurd amount of weight cut that still exists in the pro MMA and boxing.
Totally.
They emaciate, drop 20 pounds, weigh in, carb up, hydrate, and gain the 20 back. What's the point?
Yeah, it's just bullshit.
What is the point?
Yeah, that's weak. Hey, real quick. In your day, did they have stripes on the belt? Because every time I got a belt from Gumby, you know, he gave me my belt. Like Gumby never put a stripe on any belt I ever had until I got my black, and then whatever.
Yeah.
I understand why stripes exist because it makes people feel like they're shit until they get to the next level.
It's organizational. I think
that's good for character.
Yeah. All right. But stripes for lower belts is organizational for the coach or school owner.
Yeah.
And they should be basically automatic.
Yeah.
With blue belt, you get a stripe every 6 months. So I know when you have 4 stripes, now you've been a blue belt for 2 years, you need to either be a purple belt or step your game up.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, I can't, especially my age, 5 years past, and I can swear it was 5 months.
Yeah.
And I'll forget.
Yeah.
For the black belt, once again, it's politics.
Yeah.
And we're in a hierarchy of organizations, which I am neither opposed nor against. But in order to play the game, we have to not piss anyone off and earn our stripes on our black belts.
Yeah.
And the guys who totally reject it and go out of their way to piss the people off, I've never seen good things happen to them unless they become tyrants and start their own organization, right?
No, that's
and I mean, Right? That's the thing. But do I want to do that? No.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that.
I'm going to join with the collective of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And we collectively all agree on at least the fundamentals of when a belt's due, when a stripe's due, and all that, right? And the IBJ, the JF, and Hickson have basically the same standards and timelines. Gracie from Horion and Joe Moreira, who's been ostracized, they have their own versions of timelines.
Yeah.
Like with GU, they give black belt stripes every 2 years.
Okay.
Do they?
Yeah. I was a black belt when Heron and Henry were fucking kids.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
They're going to catch up and surpass me.
Right.
They get to do that. Now, people will ask me, are you mad about that? No, I'm not fucking mad.
Yeah,
Because who fucking cares how many stripes one has on their belt, right?
dude, like, I don't care at all. Like, I'm happy I'll take them if you got them. You know what I'm saying? But like,
I mean, yeah, I'm going to take them and I'm going to be glad I got them. And like, I think it's also easier for me to say because my ego gets a little bit padded because I'm already recognized as like an established guy.
Yeah.
I don't have to go get a belt and a bunch of stripes to go, hey, I'm established now.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, I know it's easier for me to say, who cares what, like I used to say all the time, the only people who say, doesn't matter what belt you are, be on the journey, enjoy it, are black belts. Because all lower belts are thinking about it, right? How could you not?
It's fucking hilarious.
It's true.
Scott, when did you get your black belt? And when you got it, I don't care when you got it. I want to know the day you got it. Did you expect it? And what was that experience like?
No, I was expecting it because we were at that time. I mean, we had connected with. I got all my belts from my colored belts and my black belt from Steve Maxwell. And we eventually connected with Steve Maxwell. If any of your listeners know that name. And so we had we had him coming in on a regular seminar schedule, and so it was usually kind of understood, you know, that the timelines all worked out a certain way. But I had basically I'd gone on a trip with Steve to Hawaii to film some instructional stuff and then to train out there, and in November of the previous year. And that was kind of my like test. He like made me roll with a bunch of guys at this academy in Hawaii. And that was kind of the idea of the trip. And he was like, okay, look, you know, this is all good. I'm coming back to Ohio in April, and we'll do the promotion then. So it was, I knew it was coming. I mean, of course it was amazing. It was you know, one of my top 10 life experiences for sure.
Sure.
But,
were you I remember waking up the next day, like when I got my black belt, I was not expecting it because I always thought I was never going to get it.
mm-hmm.
Like, honestly, I was like, in fact, one of my friends told me like 2 months ago, he goes, you know what's weird? I was like, what? He was like, I never remember you saying, I want to be a black belt. And I remember being like, oh shit, he's probably right. And I said, and this is a guy that's known me for years, like since we were kids. He's like, I never heard you say you wanted a black belt in jiu-jitsu. I said, you know what? I never said it because I never thought I'd be good enough. You'll suck forever and enjoy it. Like that was the thing. So when I got it, I was like, what the hell? And I was like, okay. Because Gumby was like, because I would say I was coming and not come because life, Gumby knows. I have had a flaky journey in the game. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'll see you Thursday, bro. And then I won't come back for like 2 months or whatever. So he was like, come to downtown class on Wednesday or whatever the day was. And I remember I pulled up and I actually saw my friend's car, but didn't realize it was his car. And I was like, I got to tell my friend, I've seen a car like his today. And I almost took a picture of the car. Of course it was his car because he knew I was getting my black belt. So then I get there and then Gumby gives me the belt. And at the time I was just like, take the picture. But then like when I woke up, I literally slept next to it when I went home. I slept next to it and I woke up and I was like, it really happened. And I had like the trembling tear, like, you got your ass kicked all these years. You know what I'm saying? And like, but then I remember feeling horribly unqualified for, you know what I mean? Like, are you sure you gave this to the right guy? Kind of a vibe, you know what I mean? And that's when I felt, you know, just the pressure to grow and, you know, be more authentic and in how you express yourself as a teacher and how you know, think about, you know, how you want to teach, how you plan to function as a black belt, especially an older black belt with injuries and shit like that. But you know, it's been a very enriching game for me on so many levels beyond whatever moves or techniques or whatever. If you could put, both of you could put one word to what you learned beyond moves, what would that one word be?
Iteration.
Say that again.
Iteration. The value of just learning the process of, like Chris and I talked a lot about in the book, about this, basically the scientific process. Come up with an idea, try it out, get the data from that try, make a new experiment, get the data, and just live your life that way. Don't try to make the perfect thing first. Don't think you're ever going to finish the iterative process. Just make iteration your mode of operating.
Damn, that was bars. You guys are killing it today. You guys are hitting a lot of threes. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, let me ask you, what would the Stoics say about your black belt or anyone's black belt? Right?
What are you doing, man? You're messing me up on my own podcast. No. I can imagine, depending on who you asked, because, you know, Marcus Aurelius was an actual warrior who was in combat.
He's the warrior Stoic.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And I think most people miss that Socrates was a hoplite who killed people. For sure. You know what I'm saying? And Plato and Xenophon also fought, were in wars, you know what I mean? And took lives. I still think, how crazy is it that like there's people in the earth who died at the hands of Socrates? That's fucking crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's crazy. Like, if there is an afterlife, somebody's like, yeah, so I was on the battle, right? And this portly guy comes up with a with a beard and he slashes my shit. It turns out it was Socrates. Like, I just I think that people miss in the heady discussion of philosophy that most of the philosophers we love took lives at some point. You know what I mean?
Well, I think this is virtually true with everybody in on a spectrum. Is some of the greatest historical figures, leaders, artists, philosophers we tend to revere as perfection or near there. But a lot of them also have a dark side, right?
The shadow.
But Franz Kafka, you know, great Russian writer, a Kafka-esque nightmare is like he grew up having a dad who was like revered by the town, like a mayor, church leader and all that, who at home was a brutal dickhead.
Yeah.
That's the Kafka-esque nightmare.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that brutal ass, but dad, you learn from the wisdom that he does out in public.
Yeah.
So you're literally torn. And all of us have an extent of that with our own backgrounds and our parents and our jiu-jitsu teachers and our masters. And I think that's true with all the great leaders of the world, right? And it's a spectrum. There are some that are just bad all the way, but they might. Hitler, you know, he didn't eat meat and he loved dogs.
Unfortunately, he had other things in his shadow that shifted.
Right.
He had a couple other hobbies,
right? But so here's my thought.
But Trump, he doesn't like dogs and eats McDonald's.
Every day. And I hope he keeps it up because I saw Super Soft.
It seems to be
McDonald's.
He seems to be impervious.
I know. So here's the thing. I think
I have an answer as to why.
Go. Why?
Because empathy, but to others, causes a stress reaction in the body. And that stress reaction ages you, especially as you get older.
Damn, homie.
And when you're having to weigh out, do I put a drone strike? I imagine Obama.
Right.
Who I think is a good man.
He did fuck up Afghanistan with probably the most drone strikes of any president. I mean, obviously right. Trump's going for the indoor record, but like until that, like Obama was fucking up.
And he was deporting people.
But he was better. He was better than all the other modern presidents, I'll say. You know what I mean?
I think so.
I think he was the best.
I think he was. Here's me praising Obama.
Yeah.
I think Obama would, let's just say in an alternate timeline that wouldn't have existed because we didn't have half of America had no rights yet. But let's say Obama was elected in 1964 election.
Right.
I think in that time he would have been as transformational as FDR or Abraham Lincoln. But Obama was elected in the time of the height of the rise of right-wing propaganda.
But I think he became the poster boy for it unknowingly.
Like,
I think that if he, sometimes there's a curse to being first.
There is.
You're the first black guy to get into the Oval, homie. You got enemies within and without. You know what I mean? It's crazy. Oh, real quick. So the Stoics would say that my black belt, they would look at it as an indifferent, and that its only value would exist if it improved my character in regards to wisdom.
That's correct.
Right? Temperance and justice. And if I was not more wise, just, temperate, right, or courageous, that the belt itself would have no value.
Yes.
That's what I believe.
It would be so light it would float.
Yeah, and it would, and I think that that's why I've been pushing so much, and I'd like to know both of your thoughts about, and I'm always talking about this ad nauseum. So like most people who listen may be like, please don't ask him about that shit again, Adisa, don't ask him. But like, I'm going to ask you both about what role do you believe ethics should play in the space of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, specifically all martial arts, but specifically in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, because this is where we exist. Because I struggle, and I wrote for Vale Tudo News with Eddie Goldman back in the day when nobody gave a fuck about Vale Tudo and MMA. And what I used to say was the problem with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is that it doesn't have an ethical code, and that if we don't, in 20 years, we'll have created a generation of bulls in a china shop who are dangerous and can tear things apart, but won't know when or why they should or shouldn't. And that is right now, I believe. I think that fruit is bearing itself across the spectrum in the globe of jiu-jitsu, and it bothers me, right? And I know that Brazilian jiu-jitsu doesn't have to change your life like it changed mine. I know that people don't have to be philosophers, but I feel like without an ethical code, or even just like a point in a direction, like you don't have to be stoic. I'm Muslim. You don't have to be Muslim. You don't have to be stoic. But like you should think about who you want to be, because with these skills, how you function on the planet may change, and you may endanger yourself with this art minus the ethics. Is it necessary? Why or why not? And to what degree, maybe?
I mean, all right. I think it's necessary for our organization, a combat base, to have an ethical code. But I don't think it's necessary for me to try to impose that on any other organization. But here's where that becomes a problem, right? And again, I'm more of an observer than a participant. I'm more of a journalist than an activist in this way, right? Is the whole theory of ethics behind martial arts, in some ways, I believe, is post hoc historical revision bullshit. Martial arts are military arts. It directly says military arts. These are arts to fight. And Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and other arts too out there, whether it's this version of Chinese Kung Fu or that version of Japanese Okinawa or whatever it is, come from a culture, honor cultures, of men accepting duels with other men.
Yeah.
That's what it comes from. And in order to market it to this postmodern world, kids classes, self-defense and all that, that's where the honor code part and the ethics will come in. But if you go to, like, say, the ethics of pre-World War II Japan, which is where most of the ethics in which jiu-jitsu mimics come from, the honor is not necessarily an honor code in which I prescribe to, because basically it's fascism.
Damn, another 3.
It's based on a hierarchy where somebody's at top who you bow to, who's infallible, whether in their jiu-jitsu, their warrior spirit, and that hierarchy runs down. I used to say all the time, and of course, analogies are analogies, and there are shades of gray and there are spectrums to all of this. And I am not necessarily against hierarchy.
Yeah.
Anybody who has a family knows there has to be a hierarchy.
That's right.
You don't vote with the 8-year-olds on whether you go to school or not.
That's right.
Right? I'm not like, I don't want to make this sound like a moral, ethical judgment critique, even on fascism, because that's how you understand how fascism rises, is by not getting into moralizing it and all that.
Yeah.
But anyhow, and again, I'm not a fascist in any fucking way. But
stay anti myself.
The martial arts that wear belts, uniforms, the kung fu's and all that tend to come from hierarchical honor culture.
Word.
Wrestling in America is kind of like socialism. The taxpayers are paying for the coach who's also the history guy. The mats are nice. They're all paid for. You don't have to actively recruit students to pay the bills. And after you graduate, there's no jobs in it, like socialism, right? Boxing is pure libertarianism. You open up a gym, usually in a poor part of town, because these guys are hungry to get out of poverty and want to fight. Managers rent space and lockers. You want a guy on a contract, and everybody's after the $1 million baby.
Damn.
That's pure unregulated capitalism. And jiu-jitsu and the other arts are much more like fascism.
I hate that you're right.
And I know I'm right. I've been traveling around the world for 20 plus years, going from academy to academy, style to style. And it really does mimic, I'm not saying it's exact. And you get to see the good parts of the hierarchy, the good parts of the free market, and the good parts of social organization, publicly funded arts.
Damn.
Right?
This shit is deep, bro. This whole conversation is like a microdose. I'm enjoying it. We're not fully deep into the trip, you know what I'm saying? But dose is in the
we're rolling on.
Yeah.
Peak.
You know what I'm saying?
We're gonna hit the dark side.
Well, that's why we're not going into the full trip. Right? If we microdose, we stave off the bad trip. Now I'm gonna grab something from one of my jujitsu journals because I would love your thoughts on it. But Scott, before I put this down, before I put my headphones down to grab this little journal, I need you to tell me what was the hardest and the easiest part of making this book. I'll be right back. Go.
Oh my God.
Who am I telling? Chris knows what the hardest part of making this book was. You're back.
The hardest part was making a book as large as the Lord of the Rings into a book you could actually hold in your hands.
The thing that the book becomes very much about in the coming chapters that you're going to read is that, like any other art form, there are parameters to, like chess, for example. You were talking earlier about, right, the mastery that people express through chess. The creativity that exists within chess is a great analog for the creativity that exists in any other art form, in that the creativity exists within the parameters of the medium. And so the challenge with writing this book, and we knew this was going to be the challenge, is that just like this conversation we've had here, Chris's interest, Chris's personality, Chris's view, Chris's all these things they're everywhere, right? It's a collage of ideas. It's a collage of ideas interconnecting with each other. That is an amazing phenomenon, but that doesn't exist comfortably with the rules and the parameters of what narrative is and what narrative requires. And so the really interesting puzzle of this book was, how do we take this thing that is like this, it's like an expanding universe, and try to feed it into this linear form we call narrative, where there is a beginning, a middle, and an end. There is something that makes me say, okay, yeah, I need to see how this resolves, so I got to turn to the next page, right? So the paradigm, the form of narrative, and the essential thing it was being asked to express were not a perfect marriage. And that's, to me, where the interesting puzzle and the actual nature of the plot that we constructed was intended to engage with.
I really love the way that this book flows, man.
Thank you.
I love it. Like I can't believe I'm so little into the book and yet have such a dedication to it. You know what I mean? I read a lot of jujitsu books, and I love a lot of jujitsu books. But I do think that most jujitsu books actually kind of suck. And the reason they suck is because they only talk about jujitsu. I think that lack, like, look, I feel like there's technical books, there's like history books, right, as far as jujitsu goes. And I think that there's an emerging philosophy. Like, more people are bringing their Christian, their Islamic, their Stoic, their Judaic, their Buddhist insights into the sport because it demands them, right? Just like we were talking about, like, you know, Musashi killed 61 people starting at the age of about 13, right? Like, you're going to need to write some shit down, bro. You're going through it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you've got some things to think around, right? So that's how you get the Book of Five Rings and stuff like that. I just found, first of all, I just realized that my jujitsu, the thing I wanted to show you, I can't pull up in my phone. It's not my cloud for some reason, but I just found this one thing that makes me think about one of the reasons why I love your book so much. And that is, it says, I'm in Leeds, 2025, 12/28. Today I learned that jujitsu is only valuable if you have other things to weigh it against, like a family, children, a spiritual goal. Jiu-jitsu on its own is just military data. Without your mind, your goals, your heart, your people, your love, your philosophy, your God, jiu-jitsu is almost meaningless, because for some tragic souls, all they have is jiu-jitsu. And that is one of the saddest things to observe.
It is sad.
You know, and it's a sad thing when I see people and all they have is jiu-jitsu, bro. It's bad.
Now, and for some reason, like one of the things that I heard my dad say, who was a high school basketball coach. He said, "Here to go. You know, there's no pain like the pain of an aging out athlete." And if jiu-jitsu is just athletics, you're going to experience that pain. Right?
It's real. It's totally real. One of the reasons why I advocate for ethics in BJJ, because everybody thinks I'm just trying to be some kind of like goody two shoes guy in the game, and I'm not. One of the reasons I want it, outside of that first thing I talked about in terms of like bulls in the china shop, is that when the alpha predator at your school, the mad enforcer, the killer black belt you learned from, what black belt you learned from, whatever, when he hits the aging wall, one of the things I've often seen is that person disintegrate if they don't have an ethical thing, right? So if it
becomes your identity, see, that's the thing.
I wanted to say one thing about the ethical thing, because we didn't get to that question. One of the things that I often think about is the fact that obviously jiu-jitsu arrived in Brazil in the form of judo, right? And when Kano codified judo, he understood that these techniques were just a violence technology, right? That was all they were. They were a martial technology. And his intention in codifying judo was to create something that would preserve and celebrate the martial knowledge of Japan, while also producing students and influencing students who could become positive and fully integrated members of a productive society, a productive collective. And so he created judo within these two philosophies, right? It wasn't just maximum efficiency, minimum effort, which is the one that everybody quotes. The other one was mutual welfare and benefit. And I think one of the things we forget in jiu-jitsu when we are pursuing efficiency and we're talking about efficiency is that if we are always only thinking about our own best outcome, we eventually create a toxic situation that falls apart. You need these two things to balance each other on the macro level. It's that if I'm not for myself, who will be for me? But if I'm only for myself, who am I? Right? It's the need to balance these things is how we create a productive collective that within which we have our individual experience, but we have our individual contribution. And he understood that if he was just arming people to be whatever they wanted to be, that he would be contributing to the ultimate deterioration of the citizens and the ultimate deterioration of the society. And I do think that when jiu-jitsu ended up in Brazil and it got so involved with just fighting, the secondary question was allowed to. I don't mean that teams were very strong. People had I know a lot of teams had a real collective idea that we make a strong team to make all of us individually strong and collectively strong. But because it wasn't said out loud, when it landed in Reagan's America, and then just subsequent generations, right? Within American capitalist, me first, I'm going to win and I don't worry about anybody else, we see how jiu-jitsu can start to become this nihilistic, selfish tool set that contributes to the fragmentation of the thing that, just because the hole's not in your side of the boat doesn't mean you're not in the boat that's sinking.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Totally.
And so I do think that personally, I believe there needs to be an ethical component anytime you're giving somebody the tools to be more effective, especially in terms of violence. But I think even if you don't have that personal feeling, I think that the teaching of the art is inextricable, or the philosophy, the ethics of that are inextricable from the core of the art because they are woven into the core of the art. And individual schools where one guy becomes the greatest guy and everybody else is just cannon fodder for that guy, he doesn't care about developing anybody. Those schools fall apart. We see this on the micro level, we see it on the macro level. So I think even from a business perspective, if you just say, I want to run the best jiu-jitsu business, you're better served having at least this ethical balance within your approach to the art.
Dude, that was gold. That was gold. Okay, so I found a picture of this journal entry, and okay, because I love that you love Alan Watts. Alan Watts, I got introduced to during the early part of my divorce, and I knew his voice, but not his name. So I didn't know how to track him down. And then one day I was actually in Staten Island with RZA, and I met this dude who told me that he listened to Chill Step, which was kind of like this like electronic music with Alan Watts over it. And I was like, he was like, oh, it's this guy, Alan Watts. You probably don't know him or wouldn't like him. And I was like, holy shit, I know that guy. I was like, his name is Alan Watts. And he was like, yeah. And I went into the wormhole after that, bro. I like years I listened to anything I could find of this guy, right? With or without music. And so I was listening to him give a talk about Taoism and Confucianism on a plane leaving London, coming to San Francisco. And this hit me, and I just wrote it down in my journal. So imagine the yin and yang symbol, okay? I said, Confucianism is concerned with formality. The Taoists push back with a prescription that suggests that the structure is in itself unnatural. The Confucian way of life is for people involved in the world. The Taoist is for the disentangled, for the regular lifestyle. So then I put hippies / beatniks, bums of the 70s would be Taoist. And like the suit type people, right, would be the Confucians, right? So my conclusion was that Confucian equals Gi, Haleo / Carlos way. Taoism equals no Gi / Lucha Libre / 10th Planet way / Greg Souders, right? Like the ecological becomes the extremist version of Taoist jiu-jitsu. Does that jive, not jive, to what depth, no depth, or get the fuck out of here, Adisa, and go? Either one.
All right, I'm going to jump in here. And maybe this is the fact that I'm 61 and nostalgic and all that. But from my experience, jiu-jitsu on the mat was total Taoism. But the culture around it was Confucianist. So it was yin and yang in that essence.
I get it. It.
And the guys who go all Confucian on and off the mat are fucking up. And the guys who go all Tao, who becomes stoner jiu-jitsu, whatever it is, are fucking up. So
I totally agree.
In order to be a Taoist, you have to have balance. And in, the Cultural Revolution in China and Mao and like on and off in their history, they're always killing the Taoists.
Yeah.
Right?
Always.
They're always killing the free thinker types, right?
Always.
But as jiu-jitsu evolved in Brazil, it evolved its own way. And then once the kids of the quote-unquote grandmasters were new black belts and old enough to kind of do their own thing, they could no longer control and contain it.
Yeah.
And you can see in Haleo's older age, his clinging to want to control the art. And you cannot control art.
I thought it was interesting when I started to see the early hate on 10th Planet. I was like, so wait a minute. So this guy from Brazil innovates the Japanese model, and all the Japanese get pissed off. So he moves to America to showcase the innovations, and then Eddie Bravo innovates, and all the Brazilians get pissed off. And I was like, yo, that's, I think, when I started to realize that jiu-jitsu was alive. I didn't give it that kind of like I didn't have enough language to understand that. But I was like, the same innovation the Brazilians wanted to be celebrated for was the same innovation that made them hate Eddie Bravo, right? And wow, it just keeps going. But I love that it keeps going. Um, I want to thank you both for this time. This was a great conversation. Please tell everybody where to find you online and on Instagram or wherever you might be found online, because this was a great conversation and I want people to have access to this book.
I'm gonna go first.
Yep.
Go to combatbase.com, and if you want to be part of a loosely organized, friendly, affiliated jiu-jitsu organization that can recognize your rank all the way to compete in IBJJF, all the way to your coral belt if you wanted to, and all that stuff, if you're worried about that stuff, or if you're not. Combat Base is a very welcoming, do your own thing, just be ethical environment. If you're sick and tired of paying other men to tell you what you can wear, what patch you can have, come to Combat Base. And go to Amazon.com. You can get the book, and Scott will wrap that up. And guys, I'm going to roll out.
Thank you so much.
Good to see you, Chris.
Thank you.
All right.
And you can find me, I have a website called someguyfromohio.com where you can find links to all my others. So I have a writing website, I have a jiu-jitsu website, I have a few different things, but they're all linked from that main someguyfromohio.com website. You can follow my jiu-jitsu stuff on social media at Enclave Jiu-Jitsu, ENCLAVE Jiu-Jitsu, and writing is Scott Burr, author. We still there? Hey, buddy. Gotcha. Okay. Yo, 100%, man. Yeah, I appreciate you having us on. And I think hopefully after that conversation, you understand a little bit of what I was up against organizing that guy. So, yeah. 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 Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm. Mm.